This is chapter 29 of Ruby Holler, Decisions. Dallas, Florida, Tiller and Sari had packed up the breakfast things and retrieved the sleeping bags and returned to the cabin. And now Dallas and Florida were out running through the hills. Go on, Sari had urged. You two need a day off from work. Why don't you go run a while? Holler a bit too while you're at it, Tiller said. I like to hear a bit of hollering in the holler every now and then. Most people don't like hollering, Florida said. Some people would lock us up in a cobwebby basement for hollering. Tell you what, Tiller said, if I ever lose my brains and lock you up somewhere, you bust out, and then you bite me and kick me and tie me up and throw me over the cliff, you hear? Okay, Dallas said, if you ever lock us up, that's what we'll do. So Dallas and Florida had run down the hill and sloshed through the creek, and then they ran up the opposite hill, and on top of it they whooped and hollered, and when they were tired of hollering, they flopped down in the dirt. Dallas scratched at the dirt with a stick. What do you think our plan should be? He asked. Well, I've been thinking that these old people, this Tiller and Sari, they've got their hearts set on finding the mighty Rutabaga and zinging over to Kangadoon to see that rocking bird thing. And I've been thinking that maybe now, I'm just saying maybe, I'm not saying for certain sure, maybe it wouldn't hurt us all that much to go on their trips with them. And then when we get back, we could still catch that night train, Dallas said. That's right, Florida said. That's what I've been thinking. Is that what you've been thinking too? Pretty much, Dallas said. Even though we promise never, never, ever to split up. This would be an exception. Like a one and only exception, Florida said. Right, Dallas agreed. When we get back, it'll be just like before, and we'll stay together and nobody will split us up. He was picturing himself on the beach, building a hut and eating coconuts. Guess we ought to bury our money again, Florida said. Tiller and Sari were sitting on the porch swing. Are you going to miss me? Sari asked. Of course I'm going to miss you, Tiller said. How could I not miss you? You've been right here most of the days of my life. That makes me sound like an old sock. Tiller turned to look at his wife. He knew every line on her face, every expression. Sometimes he felt he knew everything about her, maybe more than he knew about himself. He felt lightheaded and weak and had to press his hand against his chest to ease the sudden fluttering inside. Are you going to miss me? He said. Sure, she said. She turned to him. You feel all right? Yes, he said. Sure I do. Sari slipped her arm through his. She wondered what it would be like to be among complete strangers with people who didn't know anything about her and who didn't expect her to be a certain way. Of course I'll miss you, she said. You're like an old comfortable boot. An old comfortable handsome boot, Tiller said. He closed his eyes and imagined the winding river. Will you miss the holler? Sari looked out across the hillside down toward the creek. If you'd asked me that last month, I'd have said no. But lately, the holler seems more like the enchanting place it used to be. Strange, isn't it? Tiller had felt the same way, but he was surprised to hear Sari say it. So you are coming back then? You're not going to decide to stay on that island out in the ocean with your what's-it bird? You old boot, she said. Of course I'm coming back. And you are too. Maybe, he said, or maybe I'll like being on that river so much I'll just go on and on. Cut that out. We could cancel our trips, you know, Tiller said. Nah, those kids are counting on these trips. It would be a shame to disappoint them.